Come on. Storm Center this morning is brought to you by Accent Fuels of Homer City. Here we go. Closed today, River Valley, Armstrong, Indiana County Head Start Program. IA1 is canceled today. IA2 is open. IA3, 4, and 5 on a 2-hour delay. Indiana County's Head Start Homer City program site is closed today. 2-hour delays for Homer Center, Indiana, Marion Center, Penns Manor, Purchase Line, United ICTC, Indiana County Head Start Cherry Hill program site, Apollo Ridge, Ligonier Valley, and Derry on a 2-hour delay too. Morning classes are canceled for Little Seedlings, Little Sprouts in Homer City. And there you go. That is your entire list as we have it now. The Storm Center brought to you by by Accent Fuels of Homer City. It's falling apart here, Bob.
Whoops.
It's falling all apart. It's Indiana in the Morning on WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com on a very cold Friday morning. I believe that when we talked with Bob Pollock last week, we asked him about the coming extreme cold weather. Well, we've got even more extreme cold weather coming this week or next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to be in the not only single digits, but the negative digits, including -8 now, they're saying, for Tuesday night. So some really, really, really cold weather coming up. And we talked last week about when you have plants indoors in the wintertime and they're next to a window, making sure the leaves of those plants aren't up against the window, especially if it's not a double pane window, because they're going to get a little bit of frostbite on them.
They could see the effects of those cooler temperatures right on the glass. Even when we cover plants outdoors in the spring, if we're going to have a frost, the foliage that touches the plants oftentimes will get burnt a little bit because it's sitting right on that cold surface. Same kind of thing, with plants near windows or cold drafts, especially tropical plants that do not prefer those conditions. Yeah.
In fact, they prefer any other condition.
I guess the positive thing going into this colder weather is we've been cold. So the plants have adapted to that. Their hardiness level is pretty much where it probably needs to be, for that given plant, given our cold temperatures and consistent cold temperatures. Yeah. We haven't had any wide swings. So that's allowed plants to, get their antifreeze levels right, essentially, and so they should be able to handle that. And we also talked about those plants. If we have plants, if we're trying plants out that are marginally hardy for our area, we get these dips. We're still, even though we have more variability in our weather conditions, not as much consistency, cold, and warm, and we fluctuate. Those plants that are borderline are the ones that we should look to first, or try to, those are the ones that are going to see the effects of, those negative conditions.
I should tell everybody that your visit this morning is presented by Marcus & Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online, marcusandmack.com. Go on.
I'm glad you thought of that before it was over.
You were rolling.
They occasionally get another bump or two along the way, don't they?
Yeah. But the extra cold weather.
Right. So now, with snow cover and everything, wildlife, if you didn't protect plants, if we went into winter and you either thought, I'm going to wait and see what happens, with all the snow cover and everything, it's getting harder for wildlife, deer, for example, to find food. So they might be going a little farther in search of that. So if you haven't protected some of those sensitive plants, you might want to get that done.
Now's the time.
Might be a little harder to pound a post in the ground at the moment, but still, some netting. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just kind of be aware of that. Rabbits, another one. Of course, they can jump things and get around things, or go under fences too, and so you might see some plants that are just chopped off and laying there on the ground.
Yeah. Well, they'll come after your shrubs.
Yes,
The deer will come right up to your house after your shrubs, and they'll strip them. At my church, they did that.
Did they?
They came up and they just stripped it all down. And that's a concern, and we think about those things. But I want to think about something else today too, and that is that some people in January they start growing plants for the coming of the spring, and when they'll finally be able to put plants outdoors, and so they're thinking about that now. In fact, some people actually they'll grow lettuce now so that they can put it on their salad tomorrow night.
Yes.
So for those folks who are starting that little project, they're just tired of being indoors and they want to think about the growing season. Let's give a little basic primer on how it is that we start. For instance, growing lettuce indoors. Let's start there.
Or if you'd like to do that, or if you want to get set up to do that, you need a place, and it might be in your basement, or it might be in a room somewhere else in the house. It could be in a garage.
Yeah. But we think about lighting and moisture a lot.
Yeah, lighting for sure. We've got to have light, and that's always our challenge this time of year. The days are short, and we often get cloudy days, so that compounds it. So you really should plan to have some lighting set up.
So a particular type of lighting?
Just fluorescent lighting. There's all kind of grow bulbs or lights, which are fine to use. Some of those do have the light spectrum is really kind of set up better for plant growth.
Okay.
So if you can pick
more UV, less UV, things like that.
Yes, and the color range is those grow lights are set up better for plant growth. But you can just use a fluorescent light. It's fine. We usually don't use regular incandescent bulbs just because they give off heat. So depending on the space, or you might even essentially you could put up some plastic and stuff and kind of make a little room in the basement, for example. Put your lights in there, and just kind of making a little room, because if your basement's too cool, that can help. You can just have a space there where you might have a heat mat. Is another thing to think about. If it's a cooler area, just having a heat mat, and you can get electric heat mats that are set up.
Yeah.
They're made for putting flats of plants on, so that you get a little bit of bottom heat, and that can be enough, and especially during germination.
Yeah.
Because most cases you're going to start things from seed this time of year. You're going to have to go in and order seed.
My car seat in my car gives me bottom heat too.
Same principle, and doesn't it make you grow better?
It does. It does. I wanted to ask you about with that lighting. Okay, so you're set up with fluorescent light in your basement, for instance, for this whatever plant it is that you want to grow. Should you simulate a basic day with light on for a certain period of time and off for a certain period of time?
Yes. The longer the day, the better. You might set it up. You can get a timer, that you can custom set for when it clicks on and clicks off. That can be very helpful. That way you don't have to. Although
remember to go and flip the switch.
It is good to check. You got to check on things anyway. Especially when you're starting seeds, need to watering. And it can be a simple 4x8 sheet piece of plywood on some sawhorses. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just an area where you can have a level surface to put pots or flats, whatever containers, you're using. And again, that doesn't have to be anything fancy either. And just to get things started, and then so we got light. Temperature is the other thing to try to control. And it will vary too by the plant you're trying to grow. Some plants will germinate in cooler conditions. Others want to germinate that's where that bottom heat comes in. It might like 70 to 75 degrees for those seeds to germinate.
Yeah.
If it's too cool, it's going to take longer, or they might not germinate at all. So just paying attention to the plants that you want to grow and provide those germination and growing conditions and set it up so that you're able to adjust that. And it might be that you make a little propagation unit to get things germinated and up, and then you move those plants to another area. You might bring them upstairs or someplace where it's warmer and where you might have more natural light, but still you could also move them and to a place where you have another lighting system set up. And the lighting needs to be adjustable because you've got tiny little plants to start out with, and the light fixtures need to be close enough so that they're getting that light that they need. Okay. You get them too far away, then it's not enough light. That light, if you would measure that light level, it would be way down. So being able to adjust your lighting as the plants grow is very helpful.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been talking about growing plants indoors and lighting today. Maybe next week we can talk a little bit about watering and humidity and those issues as we continue to grow indoors. Yeah. All right. It might be a while before the salad.
It can be a bright spot in the winter. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're looking for those. It is Indiana in the Morning. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160.